time for the Straight Up Wrestling Show.
What's up, everybody? It's HBT with Straight Up Wrestling Show, guys. I am here, man. Hey, got in here late. I was going to start this thing at 10:05, then 10:15, and then I think, 10:25. Still a little late. I did not have a clue that my computer was updating. I had no idea that Windows was updating. So that is the reason that I'm late. So, hey, sorry about that, but hey, I could not get on for nothing, but I'm on now. So I'm on here, and we're going to talk a little bit, guys. We're going to talk about when did wrestling fans just become settlers, guys? That's what I want to know. When did wrestling fans just become I'm going to do a little bit of sharing here. So give me a moment, and we're going to get into this thing, guys, because, hey, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, hey, wrestling fans have just become settlers. And it's not just from the WWE standpoint or AEW standpoint. And you got to look at AEW, not AEW, but you got to look at WWE a little bit more, because WWE has been in the game for a long time. They have been around for a long time, decades. They have been around. And like I said, hey, the product is not as good as it used to be. And I will say that for both companies. And since we started this thing in 2021, June of 2021, wrestling has seen a decline. It was declining before that, but it has continued. And everything that I've seen so far, I think wrestling fans have settled. But now wrestling fans have pulled away. The product is actually, as far as the product, they are losing more and more fans week in and week out. You can tell in the ratings that it's getting bad. It's getting bad. So, man, but wrestling fans did start settling, and that's the reason why we're at the point that we're at right now, because wrestling fans started settling for anything. And it's very sad when it boils down to it. But let me go ahead and get these. Let me go over to Facebook. Let me go over and do a couple things. Let me get some shares out. And we're going to continue to roll with this thing. Let me see, make sure I am live here on Facebook, which I am. All right. Yeah, definitely want to get this thing out to some people that usually like to check out what's going on here. And so yeah, just give me a moment, and we're gonna continue to roll. All right. But yeah, appreciate everybody coming in. Hey, and as you come in, whatever platform you on, definitely give us a like, man, and share. Tell everybody about the Straight Up Wrestling Show. I appreciate that. But yeah, straight up, man, I do. I want to know, when did wrestling fans just become settlers? And like I said, since 2021, when the Straight Up Wrestling Show started, that's one of the first things that I started seeing after watching everything. Now, when we first started doing this in 2021, I thought I saw a lot of great wrestling. I really did. And I'm talking about from both companies. I mean, especially AEW. AEW at that time was really hot when we first started in 2021. They put on a lot of great shows. And, man, I was very impressed with their pay-per-views. And I'm still impressed with AEW's pay-per-views. They are doing very good. Now, at that time, I think you had a lot of haters. You had a lot of haters as far as what was going on with WWE. People was really ticked off at WWE, and especially the Monday Night Raw product. At that time, I thought that product was pretty good. You had Bobby Lashley, who was the world champion at that time. You had he was the world champion on Raw, and you had Charlotte Flair. She was the world champion, women's world champion on Raw at that time. And I thought the product was really good. I really enjoyed it. And I've never been a WWE fan, a World Wrestling Federation fan, the WWF, and then it became WWE. I never was a fan of that. And I had stopped watching wrestling for a long time. I barely watched wrestling after WCW up until 2021. I would watch every now and then. I would turn on WWE, and I would turn on TNA every now and then just to see what was going on, to keep up with what was going on, and see a few stars that, you know, that was mega stars, to see what was happening with them and why they were stars. So, but during that whole time, the 19 years that I pretty much was just basically, I can't even really call myself a casual fan. I was a fan of wrestling, but I bought wrestling books and things like that. But I did not really watch the product or really follow the product that much. I pretty much was just into boxing. I was into, you know, football. I got into football real big, and, you know, real big into that. And I was real big into boxing. But before that, man, all the way from the early 1970s, all the way up into 2002, for like 30 years, man, I could not get enough of wrestling. That's all I thought about. That's all I wanted to see. Everything was about wrestling to me. I love professional wrestling. It was huge to me. But when WCW started doing all kind of crazy stuff, like putting the world title on actors and things like that, man, I said, I've had enough of it. And they did not know when to end that. They didn't know when to end that not the WCW, but they didn't know how to end that NWO run. I just couldn't take it no more. I said, no, this thing has got to stop. So basically, I stopped watching wrestling, except for, like I said, I would tune in every now and then to see what was going on with Mankind. Randy Orton. I like Randy Orton a lot, so I would tune in and check him out every now and then. And I checked out TNA just to see what in the world they was going, because it was an alternative. And like I said, I was not a big WWE fan. Never was a fan of the World Wrestling Federation or World Wrestling Entertainment, which is the same thing. But I never was a fan of that style of wrestling and what they did, even though they continue to grab wrestlers that I grew up with or wrestlers that I like. They had wrestlers that I like. That's the only time that I really would watch the WWE. But man, but straight up though, let's get into this. When did wrestling fans become sellers? Just become sellers? Because, you know, like I said, when I came back into watching wrestling full time and we was doing this podcast, man, turning it over to AEW, you know, I started seeing things. Of course, I had seen it before, but never really seen it on the level that AEW was doing, as far as a lot of the acrobatic stuff that they was doing in wrestling and all that. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. So I was seeing a new style of wrestling, a more athletic, like I say, more athletic style of wrestling, more pretty much an incitement-induced form of wrestling. I guess you could say they was more intense. It was more intensified as far as what they was doing with the product, and I liked it. But the one thing that I had to say to my partner Christopher Burton, and we had a guy named Michael King who used to be here on the podcast. First thing I said, I remember, you know, they was asking me, did I like it? Did I enjoy it? This one like our first or second podcast. I think it was the first one that we did. They was talking about AEW, because only time I really watched AEW was I started watching AEW the first year they had it, and I was recording the episodes, and then I stopped watching it. You know, I watched like the first 3 or 4, stopped watching it. So I started back watching it in 2021 when we started this podcast, because that's one thing that we reported on, we was talking about. So I started watching it again. And on the first show that we did, they was asking me, did I like it? Did I like it, man? It's great. You know, they're saying it's great. I said, yeah, man, it's pretty good. It's really good. I said, but AEW has a problem. And if they do not address it, if they don't address it, then I see problems with them going as they go on. I see problems down the road if they don't address it. And what I basically was talking about, because what I saw, I think this was the second show that we did, second podcast that we did. But you know, because I had seen like two shows. I think I had seen 2 shows in a row, and they used to have that AEW After Dark or whatever that show, that dark show that used to be on YouTube, and I was watching that too. So I pretty much started following the product. I wanted to see what it was about, see what they was doing, and pretty much it was just wrestling. Those guys was just wrestling guys, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, in the thing that I saw, I said, man, look, they're not focusing on storylines. They are not focusing on storylines, and everybody was getting a mic. Everybody. It didn't matter who it was, what faction it was, what wrestlers. Every wrestler was getting a mic, and I'm like, You cannot build stars like that, guys. You cannot. Everybody in a company can't be stars. It just doesn't happen. Everybody on the football team is not stars. Everybody on the basketball team is not stars. I know the World Wrestling Federation, WWE, for years have been calling all of their wrestlers. They call the whole roster superstars. Hey, there's no way. Not every wrestler on the roster is a superstar, straight up. But I'm like, wow, they are not focusing. They was focusing on certain people, but they focused on everybody and was giving everybody some shine. And like I said, the storylines was very vague. I like, man, they need to concentrate on storylines, and that's what I saw with AEW. But I'm like, if they get that right, then these guys, man, the sky's the limit. Straight up, the sky's the limit for that company. But over in the WWE, I'm sitting there watching it, and man, like I said, I really never watched the product except for when Christopher Burton would buy me a ticket. He would come by my house and say, man, we're going, he want me to go to WWE, go and watch the show with him, because I was, being him best friends. So he wanted me to go and watch the show with him. So I'm like, okay, man, I'll go and watch the show. That's the only time really that I will sit down and watch a full WWE show, was live at the venue or whatever. Didn't really care for it then either. I'm gonna be straight up. But I started watching it on TV, man, and I really enjoyed it. But Chris at that time, and I never seen Chris not like the World Wrestling Entertainment. I never seen him ever. I never even heard him say anything bad about WWE or WWF when it was WWF. I never heard him say anything, one word bad about it. But Chris started listening to certain podcasters. He said he started focusing more on the product and everything, and things got in his head from the wrestling community, and people was saying how bad Raw was, how bad WWE was, and Chris became a hater of WWE. And I mean, he would just get so mad anytime that I would say we were watching Monday Night Raw or we was watching SmackDown or whatever. Chris would get so angry that I would say that they had a good show, because they did. It was a lot of good shows back then in 2021. If you ask me, the summer of 2021, when we first started this product, I thought AEW was putting on good shows. I thought WWE was putting on good shows. But my two partners, Christopher Burton and Michael King, they could not stand the WWE at that time. So, man, but yeah, I did. I liked WWE and I tried to defend it. But, they hated it. And just like a lot of people at that time, they hated Vince McMahon because they wanted Vince McMahon out of the business. But we had a trajectory of the companies. They was going up. The WWE was basically trying to hold off AEW, even though they were saying they was not. AEW was coming out of them. They was. And they got CM Punk. They even went up a little bit farther. But one thing that I started seeing is, let's go and say with AEW. I'm like, okay, they never did address it, even though they had these great pay-per-views, and we would see them. And, I would buy every pay-per-view. I made sure we had every pay-per-view, and we would see them, man, talked about how incredible the matches were. Everything was outstanding. Then they got CM Punk. Within 1 month, they got CM Punk. They got Bryan Danielson, and they got who was that? Adam Cole. They got all three of those guys in 1 month. They was really coming up, and they numbers rose from doing 700, 800,000 to 950,000. So, they was they was getting close to doing that million week in and week out. But they barely got to that. And I think maybe they hit it a few times. I'm not exactly sure, but as far as my memory serves me, I think a few times or whatever, but I know they was around that 950 mark when they had CM Punk, and, everybody was watching them. Everybody was, checking out what AEW was doing. I mean, you had people that was serious about wrestling at that time, but WWE was still doing some major things. They kept doing major things to keep people away, and they was trying to hold on to their audience. So I think wrestling at that time between 2021, 2023 was doing very well for itself. But man, one thing I think WWE should have been doing, they should have been basically embracing what was going on with AEW. But we see what happened with AEW after CM Punk left. I mean, Bryan Danielson kept getting injured. Adam Cole got injured, and he basically, was just basically a skeleton, very, very small guy. But getting into the thing about wrestling fans settling, I think AEW instead of focusing on storylines because they just really, I guess, couldn't really get it right. They just went ahead and just caused chaos and just been as chaotic as possible. Do the most insane thing for that stunned effect to try to see if they can stun you, or pretty much just anything that was very dramatic, or anything, the shock effect. It seemed like they just started going for the shock effect, and the fans, it seemed like the fans was eating that up for a while. But too much of it can be a bad thing, and that's one thing I saw with AEW. And one thing that I saw that came off this chaos and everything, the WWE started following, as much as they wouldn't like to admit it. They started following what AEW was doing. Now AEW was following them for a while. Then the WWE made a turn and started following them, and WWE has always been the leader. I'm like, they've always been a leader. I'm like, what? Why in the world are you following a company that's smaller than you when you've always been the leader? But it seemed like, WWE, hey, we're not gonna work on any ideas either. We're just gonna follow what they're doing, and everything with WWE became chaotic too. It's just all chaos all the flipping time, attacks after attacks after attacks after attacks. And as far as wrestling, man, I'm a traditionalist. I'm a traditionalist. Man, I love tag team wrestling, and AEW just pretty much done threw that out the window. And they've had a lot of great tag teams, if you ask me, but they have just went the trios route. The trios route. They have just decided, hey, we're gonna have trios matches, triple threat matches, or we're gonna have 8-man tag team matches, 10-man tag team matches. That's what they decided they was gonna do, and we're gonna have battle royals. We're gonna continue to do things like that. We're gonna put tax in the ring. We're gonna do everything we can. We're gonna bring pretty much little hammers in the ring. We have to screwdrivers in the ring and do damage. And wrestling fans was settling for that instead of demanding that you have great storylines, continue to build characters. And same thing happened with WWE. Chaos, more and more chaos. And the thing that I see as far as, pay-per-views, premium live events, of course, a lot of it has to do with money. The more they pull those things out, the more money that they can get. But I started looking at PLEs and I started looking at pay-per-views, and I said, okay, if you have this every few weeks, every month, you have one every month, then they don't have time to work on a storyline. They really don't. It's like, okay, let's come up with some little story, little small story, and call that a story, and boom, it's over by that pay-per-view or that PLE, and then we move on to the next thing. And they trying to figure it out. And it's like they're trying to figure out things as they go and trying to throw in a few stories here and there. And any little thing that we can get, we end up selling. We end up selling for it. I mean, for a while there, Tony Khan, he continued to sign people. Anybody that left the WWE or whatever, he would sign people, and he would tell people, I have this big announcement. We have a huge announcement. And he was doing that so he could get his ratings, so it could pop his ratings. He said, we have a huge announcement, and people were always tuning in for these announcements. And it was flat out crazy. And it was something, and for the most part, 85 to 90% of those announcements, I say 80 to 90% of those announcements was a huge disappointment. And it really ticked people off. but he kept doing it. He kept doing it. He was doing it month in and month out. Anytime that the WWE did something spectacular or they had a great show, he would do this. He would do that. He would do it. And the WWE, man, they would anytime that and they started doing pretty much the same thing. Anytime the ratings started going down or whatever, we got a big announcement, or they would work out. They really didn't say they had a big announcement. They would work a angle to where you knew somebody was coming back, or you heard that somebody was coming back. There was a rumor. And the thing with AJ Lee come back, it was just huge. They brought CM Punk back. Huge. They would do things, they would orchestrate things to where they can bring somebody back, and people would just go crazy for that. Which back in the day when I was growing up, man, hey, in wrestling, we didn't know when these people were going to show up. We had no clue. They just showed up on the program. But hey, wrestling fans have settled for that and pretty much taking the bait for things like that, man. But hey, I appreciate everybody coming in on Straight Up Wrestling Show. I know a lot of people are at work, and I know this is pretty early. You might be just getting up and just getting started for work, maybe trying to, pretty much get a little bit of breakfast or something like that. And you decided to come in and check out Straight Up Wrestling Show. I appreciate each and every one who's doing that. But hey, if you are first time here or whatever, or you here, go ahead and hit that like, share, join. If you're over on Facebook, if you're here on YouTube, hit that like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, ding, 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 so you know when we're on, like times like these. And if you're over on Twitch, you do the same thing that you do over here on YouTube. And if you're over on X, man, hit that like, share, tweet, and retweet, and follow the Straight Up Wrestling Show. But yeah, guys, yeah, I just don't know. But yeah, I think wrestling fans have just decided to, I just think they decided to settle and just go with the flow. But I guess I really can't say that now, because a lot of fans, if you look at the numbers, fans have just turned away. A lot of fans are turning away from the sport. So I guess a lot of people really have gotten fed up. But for a while there, man, the numbers pretty much stayed even as far as with each brand, as far as on WWE, AEW too. But fans, hey, I think fans right now are getting really fed up. But fans became settlers there for a while, and you still got a lot of fans out here who are settlers. We're gonna settle for anything, whatever the wrestling people decide to feed us, the people that's in charge. We're gonna settle for it, guys, and we're gonna pay our money. We're gonna go to every show or whatever. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna settle, and that's, man, I see that so much. And not just with the WWE, AEW. I see it here on the indie scene all the time. And me and Chris, we always on the indie scene, going to shows, pretty much. If we're not part of the show, as far as doing podcasting, commentating, or like I say, us promoting the show, which we have produced shows ourselves. We've seen fans. I've seen fans. They just settle for anything. And they continue to come back. And you might not have a lot of fans there, but there's certain fans that come to, you might see at the same indie show over and over again, even if the show is horrible. Excuse me, everybody. And yes, I will say a lot of shows. I've seen a lot of indie shows that were just flat out horrible. Just like I see a lot of shows, AEW shows that's horrible. I see a lot of WWE shows that's horrible. But the fans have settled for it. And I know if you don't settle, then you have nothing. I mean, when it boils down to it, you have nothing. And nobody wants to see wrestling just roll out of here. They don't want to see wrestling just go away. Even a lot of fans, even a lot of people that's not watching it, they used to watch it way back in the day. They don't want to see wrestling just, leave the scene. But yeah, the wrestling fans that we have now, a lot of wrestling fans have become settlers because, man, I mean, you got to demand, you got to say, hey, where in the world are the Hulk Hogans? Where in the world are the Stone Cold Steve Austins? Where are the Rocks? Where are Ric Flair? Where are Shawn Michaels? Where are these pretty much bigger than life characters that we saw back in the day? The Andre the Giants, the Roddy Pipers, those type of guys. The Tony Atlas guys, the guys like that, Ron Simmons. these bigger than life characters. Wrestling needs that. Where are the great tag teams that we saw back in the day? Where are the teams like the Road Warriors? Even, you could throw in Demolition with that. Tag teams like the Hart Foundation, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood, the Anderson brothers, people that was bigger than life. I mean, characters, that pretty much gravitated and grabbed they grabbed the general public. The general public was into so many different teams or so many different individual wrestlers. They love them, man. They love them to death. And man, we have a lot of, there's a lot of great wrestlers today, not just the male wrestlers or female wrestlers, a lot of them that could be huge superstars. But for the most part, we have a lot of 50-50 booking, and the booking for the superstars, the true superstars of wrestling, the ones that could pretty much take the sport to another level, they don't even get booked right. I mean, you have, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about world champions. I'm talking about Roman Reigns. When he had the title, Roman Reigns, he faced off against a lot of people. I guess he was saying he smashed everybody when it boils down to it. But everybody that he was smashing, he was beating down or whatever, and I know he's part-time, they never really made it a feud. They never really gave him a run at anybody to where it became a true feud like back in the day. Like, hey, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, they had feuds that lasted for months, and I mean intense feuds that they would just go at each other time and time again, not just that one big show that you might see on TV, but at house shows and things like that, these guys was going at each other all the time. That's why, Ricky Steamboat against Ric Flair is so legendary. Ricky Steamboat against Sting is so legendary. Ric Flair against Wahoo McDaniel is so legendary. Ric Flair against Harley Race is so legendary because these guys went at each other over and over and over, and it was a true test of will and skill, man, and just grit. And these guys just continually just battled each other. Hulk Hogan, the same thing. Now, he did not have feuds as long as Ric Flair, but he had a lot of intense feuds. He, against King Kong Bundy, against Macho Man Savage, against King, like you already said, King Kong Bundy, Zeus. Well, that didn't really last long, but he had some very memorable feuds. I think I just think, yeah, we definitely need that. You need the character building. You need your champions. You need your champions, your main champions that have great feuds. Ultimate Warrior versus Rick Rude. That was outstanding, guys. Let's see, man, Roddy Piper against Greg Valentine in the NWA. That was incredible. Leading to the I Quit match. Let's see. Well, not the dog collar match, the famous dog collar match. You had Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard led to the I Quit match. Just a long-term feud, just outstanding. A lot of blood and guts in this, man, and these guys just battling it out. I mean, we did not settle for, we did not just settle for a bunch of guys just doing some acrobatics and people pulling out tables all the time and just throwing guys through tables. Hey, pulling out kendo sticks. Bringing, any little foreign object in the ring. We wasn't settling for that, guys. We was adamant about, hey, you got to have good storylines. You got to have great characters, or we're not coming out to the shows. And if you go back and you look at the shows and everything like that was coming to people's towns and everything, because we used to see a show every week because we had those regional promotions. And the Carolinas region, which was Jim Crockett Promotion, which ran the Carolinas and Virginia for the most part, and they did go up into Philadelphia, Buffalo, and things like that, and used to go into Canada. But one thing about Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling, man, if we did not see great storylines, new characters being built up and things like that, we just did not go. We did not go, and I mean, we had wrestling every Monday night or something like that, or every Monday night in Greenwood Memorial Auditorium. Every Tuesday night, it was in the Greenwood Civic Center. Every Wednesday night, they was at the Spartanburg Memorial Auditorium. Every Thursday night, they was up in Raleigh, North Carolina. Every Friday night, they was in Williamsburg, Virginia, or something like that. But and it was and on Saturday nights, man, it was in Greensboro, North Carolina, big, huge houses. But they would sell out everywhere they went. but the numbers used to go down if they wasn't getting good storylines. They wasn't giving us good storylines. The numbers went down, man. But yeah, we did not have a voice to scream. Our voice couldn't scream over social media, but we let our wallets do our talking. I was talking back then, straight up. The fans, man, they just didn't show up. I mean, except for the really hardcore fans. I went every week. I was a kid back then, but I went every week. And even when my family would go out and say, hey, we're going to a baseball game this weekend or whatever, wrestling was coming to the Greenville Memorial Auditorium, I save my money. I'd be like, Mom, I want to go to wrestling. Every Monday night, I would be there every Monday night at the famous Greenville Memorial Auditorium. Saw so many great matches there. Saw a lot of crazy stuff there. Like, Ole Anderson, I'll never forget. I was 8 years old, man. He got stabbed 33 times by a fan. I saw so many crazy things there, so many great things. But, back in the day, man, we just did not settle for anything. And I do not remember anybody complaining about the product that they saw on TV. It didn't matter if it was WWE, it was, NWA products, with Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, or anything, even the AWA. The AWA, I never heard anything bad about the AWA until they got on ESPN later on. And, some people would be like, all these wrestlers are very old. Vern Gagne just refused to pretty much change with the times, and he really did. And we kept seeing a lot of old product or whatever with ESPN. The way everything was managed wasn't good. But, man, hey, we didn't complain about the product because the product was good. Wrestling was just good everywhere. Some regional promotions, some territories was better than others. But wrestling was good overall. It was just really good. Really good. But, yeah, now, like I said, hey, wrestling fans, they are just settling for anything. They really are, man. Just to say, okay, man, hey, you want to bring out tables? We'll deal with tables. If you want to put tax all in the ring, we'll deal with tax. If you want to take a fork in the ring and, pretty much slice somebody up open, hey, we'll take that. But that is the form of entertainment. That is wrestling, but that is not wrestling, guys. And, yeah, we had people that did that back in the day. We had Abdullah the Butcher. We had a lot of different crazy jokers in wrestling. But one thing about wrestling back in the day, hey, man, people was able to win matches and able to walk to the back. And that's one thing, walk in the back with class. And that's one thing I want for wrestling today. A lot of times we have attacks when there shouldn't be attacks. I watch great matches and there's always an attack after, not the match don't even get to finish sometimes. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is heading to a 3.5 to 4-star match, sometimes 4.5-star match. This is a great match. This thing is outstanding. And then next thing you know, there's an attack. And we don't settle for that. We have. And that's one thing us as wrestling fans, we have got to get out of that. We got to get out of this settlement attitude that, hey, we are willing to settle for everything. I mean, we're willing to settle for anything because that's what they're going to do. They're going to continue to give us that. But guys, I appreciate everybody coming in. Like I said, hey, man, before you leave out of here, go ahead and hit that like, share, join here on Facebook, YouTube, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, ding, ding, ding. So, we're on like times like these. Do the same thing if you're over on Twitch and if you're over on X, man, hit that like, share, tweet and retweet. But man, yeah, I know I'm going to end this thing. I'm about to end this thing because I want to get out and get me something to eat too. I'm getting a little hungry. Guys, I did eat a little snack cake or whatever, but that ain't going to tie me over. I need to get out and get some real breakfast, guys, here in just a minute. But I appreciate everybody coming in, man. I know it's early and all that, and I know some people will see this thing a little bit later, but I appreciate everybody coming in here, man. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. And, wow, yeah. So, not completely there. Let me drink a little bit of water. But I appreciate everybody coming in. And hey, as you go out, have a blessed day and everybody be safe. Stay straight up. Talk to you guys later. Peace.